Hi and welcome to Heart Shaped Cake. I have a nice baby shower cake on my list for the weekend, and for this I need my German sponge cake recipe. I have my baking pans already greased, so I just need to cut out my parchment paper rounds. I trace around my cake baking form, need to cut it out. I always grease my baking forms because then the parchment paper sticks to the bottom. Besides getting my baking forms ready, I need to preheat my oven to 190 degrees Celsius, just a regular baking program. I have 4 eggs already separated. I have the egg yolks here. We start with the egg whites. I need to sift my flour, just a second. And therefore, I need my scale. I need 66 grams of flour and just a tiny bit in my baking pan to flour the sides so the cake bakes nicer. I also need the same amount of cornstarch, 66 grams. I need 16 grams of custard powder. I use this if I need bigger amounts. Sometimes I use the German brand if I have it on hand. And I need baking powder. Three-quarters of a teaspoon. So I'm using half and I'm using 1/4 of a teaspoon. And I also like to add some ground vanilla bean powder. That's okay, just like 1/8 of a teaspoon. I don't know, that makes sense. I never really measure vanilla, just measure with your heart. Put this aside, flour my baking pans. Sugar, we need sugar, 133 grams of sugar. And this is my family recipe book, if that makes sense. Like all the recipes I have from my grandma and my mom and some own ones. Like, yeah, that's why I always have this on the side. We start with the egg whites. Make sure your bowl is clean. Just a tiny bit of salt. And then whip your egg whites on high for a couple of minutes until stiff peaks form, and then we're adding the sugar. Turn your mixer to slow speed and slowly add the sugar. And then let it mix on high speed for 2 minutes or until you see that stiff peaks form, and then we're ready to add our egg yolks. So it should look like this, stiff peaks, and then you can add the egg yolks. I have some egg yolk on the side, so I'm just scraping down the side of the bowl so everything gets mixed in nicely. I need to look up this cool new tool that you can use on your whisk for your mixing bowl, because then you don't have to use your fingers or the spatula. This is how the cake batter should look like. Just mixing with my spatula to make sure I have all the egg whites mixed with the egg yolks. Then we have the flour cornstarch mixture with like the baking powder and my ground vanilla beans. And this is a very specific tool that I have from my grandma. I like to use it to fold in my flour before I start mixing it with the spatula. It makes it very easy, and it doesn't really work with my whisk. I don't know how to explain it. It's also really old, and yeah, I need to replace it one day, I'm afraid. It's a little bit like folding your macaron batter. So you don't really mix it in, you kind of fold it and push it against the side of the bowl, if that makes sense. So trying to let all these bubbles in the cake batter. Scrape along the bottom and the side of your bowl. So you have everything nicely incorporated and no flour lumps or anything. And then divide it evenly among the two baking forms. I like to use a scale. You can eyeball it if that's easier. I'm trying to smooth out the top so that it bakes evenly. And now they bake for 25 to 30 minutes. I always start with the lower time setting and then adjust if I need to make sure it doesn't overbake. And while my cake layers are baking, I use the time in between to clean everything up because I'm doing my Swiss meringue buttercream right away. For my vanilla Swiss meringue, I need 7 egg whites and I need 340 grams of sugar. I have my egg whites here in my bowl and it's a tiny bit more, it's 282 grams, which is fine. I'm adding the sugar right away. And it doesn't matter if it's a bit frozen because I heat it up anyway. A little bit of salt. Maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon, if that makes sense. Just a tiny bit. And I need a pot with hot water and I'm putting it on top and heat it up to 65 degrees Celsius. Place your mixing bowl on top of your pot. And your mixing bowl should never touch the boiling water. If you see any, brown thingies in your egg whites, I try to get it out. Once I see it, it takes around 10 minutes. Especially if you had frozen egg whites like I did. Use a candy thermometer to check the temperature. So we are right before 50 degrees Celsius, so it has a little bit more to go. Perfectly timed. We are reaching 60 degrees at the moment. Just a little bit more, like I would like to have 65. It's thick, it's fluffy, and I'm just going to bring it over to my mixer and whip it on high speed until it forms stiff peaks for around 10 minutes. My cake layers look great and it looks like they are baked completely. I'm going to check on them with a little toothpick. Nothing on the toothpick, so they are ready. My cake layers are completely baked and now I'm going to whip my Swiss meringue buttercream. I always like to wrap a little, cool pack around it to bring it down to room temperature. Just whip it on high until you touch the bowl and it's not warm anymore. Once your meringue is at room temperature, you can start adding the butter slowly, piece by piece. So this is how it should look like. It's still kind of like lukewarm to the touch when you touch the bowl. I'm just going to add the butter slowly. It cools it down as well, so we'll see. Once you add the butter, in this case I had 570 grams of butter. I always use a little bit more than written in the recipe, like the egg white and butter ratio. Once you add the butter, it turns a bit more into a liquid. Just keep going. It is the right texture or whatever. It will change. Like just whip it for the next 10 minutes and it'll change in the consistency and the texture. And it becomes a really nice buttercream. Trust the process. Scraping down the side of, scraping down the side of the bowl is important to make sure that you incorporated all the meringue. Needs to whip a little bit more, but you can see how the texture changed. Looks good so far. We are adding the vanilla bean paste soon. I guess like another 5 minutes or so. I let it mix on high speed and then we'll check again. It looks good so far, so I'm adding my vanilla bean paste, and that's the one I'm using because I like the taste of it. And the result in my buttercream. Measure with your heart as always. I don't measure vanilla with a teaspoon or anything else. And then just mix it again. This is how the buttercream looks right now, and I always make it in advance because it's easier. It's so much better for your schedule if you have everything ready to go. My cake layers are ready, so I just flip them over. They need to cool down a little bit more, and then we're going over to the best part, stacking and decorating this baby shower cake. I can't wait. Stay tuned. I just realized that the microphone was not connected to my phone. So what I did was I cut the cake layers in like even layers. I glued down my first layer to my cake board. You've all seen that in the video, just without my voice. Sorry about that. So the first layer is on the cake board, and I'm going to use a little bit of my syrup. And then I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of buttercream. Let's see if that's enough. Pipe your buttercream dam around the edge or along the edge of the cake before you add your filling. And place your second cake layer on top. Make sure it's even, it's leveled, it's right in the middle. And then same again, a little bit syrup, just a tiny bit, buttercream. Again, pipe your buttercream dam along the side of the cake so we don't have a lot of space to fill. And the next cake layer, you can press it down gently. And again, a little bit of syrup. I don't add it to every kind of cake, but this one gets a little bit. And the last buttercream jam, I guess I need a little bit more of salted caramel. Just give me a minute. Good thing I always have salted caramel in the fridge. If your cake was moving and you are using those acrylic sheets, you can also squish it a little bit. And I just use masking tape to secure the overlapping part so it doesn't move. There we go. It goes in the fridge, and then it's ready to get the crumb coat and then the final coat of buttercream. The cake was in the fridge for a couple of hours to completely set, and now I'm doing the crumb coat, and then I let it rest in the fridge for another 2 hours, not too long. I'm just removing the acrylic sheet. Just filling in any spots that I see that need a little bit more buttercream. But as I said, you don't have to be really precise with the crumb coat. It's just to have no crumbs loose, and then maybe in the final layer, you don't want to have that. Now it goes back in the fridge for the next 1 to 2 hours, just to make sure the crumb coat has set enough and is firm enough to apply the final layer of buttercream. So excited for the color scheme. For this baby shower cake, I need 2 different shades. I am using a white shade, like the typical natural buttercream color. Oh my god. And I'm also using a light sage green to make an ombre design. So we are just using a little bit of buttercream and our food coloring to get the right shade of color ready to go. And then I can get the cake and we can start applying both colors and create this nice color scheme. A little bit more. So I have my buttercream here in my bowl. I have my food coloring ready to go. And it takes a little bit time to get the right shade. Shake your food coloring before you use it. And as always, a little goes a long way. Start with a few drops and then add more if needed. I also had to change my shirt because I got some buttercream on the orange one, but this one fits way better to my business colors, so yeah. Just in case if you were wondering about the different shirt. I might need to add a different color, like a different green to get a darker shade of it. But if you let it sit on the counter for a while, this color, it darkens over time. That's also the case if you use dark shades like red or black, for example. Make the buttercream the day before and let it sit overnight, so it has time to get a really dark shade. My buttercream looks good so far. You might see the shade. This is the cake. I start applying the buttercream and I can't wait to finish all the nice details with the decoration. Now I'm just going to, scrape or mix these colors a little bit. So I get this nice ombre shade or design, that's a better word for it. The cake was in the fridge to chill a little bit, so it's easier to add all my decoration. I have gold and white plastic spheres or balls. I have a nice gold and white sprinkle mix, and I do have beautiful gold foil cake topper, which I'm going to add first. Now that I have the front, I start adding all those decoration pieces. I might have to cut them a little bit. I like how it looks, so I'm not adding any more of those decoration pieces. I'm just using my sprinkle mix and add the sprinkles here and down here. final design. I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the colors. It looks very nice and elegant. This is my baby shower design for the weekend. I'm happy with the result. I like the colors. I like the ombre style. I will link everything that I used for this cake, the sprinkles, and the decoration in the description below the video, so you can find everything. I have a Canadian-based online shop that I prefer for ordering all my baking supplies. They have a huge variety. I got the sprinkles from there. I will link everything. Let me know if you have any questions. If you like the video, please give me a thumbs up, and yeah, see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.